Well, listeners, a couple of weeks ago, you all heard a review for a brand new movie called Hundreds of Beavers that we absolutely loved on this show. Today, we're happy to announce that we've actually got one of the stars of the film, Ryland Brickson Cole, on the phone to chat a little bit about this amazing new film that's getting a limited cinema release here as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But Ryland, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, David. Really appreciate it.
So, Ryland, tell us a little bit about your journey with Hundreds of Beavers. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved with this film from the very beginning.
Well, yeah, my good friend and collaborator Mike Cheslick and we've been working together since high school, actually, and we made another feature called Lake Michigan Monster. And because of the success of that, we were able to get a little bit more money to make Hundreds of Beavers. So yeah, it was just started as this little kernel of an idea that expanded and got bigger and bigger and more absurd and crazy until it is the massive monstrosity winter epic that you see today. But yeah, Beavers itself was a lot of friends and family who all came together to make this absurd comedy.
So, Ryland, Lake Michigan Monster, that was another film that we were very big fans of on this show. In fact, it made our top 10 list of the year that it came out. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that filmmaking relationship that you've got with Mike. As you said, it goes right back to high school. How did you two start working together, and what kind of sparked that interest in cinema for both of you?
Well, we always were fans of movies, as most people are. But yeah, we had an assignment actually in high school. I think it was junior year of high school, where the principal hired us to do a promotional video for the high school. And we showed it to an auditorium full of people, and they all seemed to really love it. They were just cracking up with laughter, and we kind of looked at each other and said, we might have something here. And then the principal hired us to do a 75th anniversary video for the high school as well, which people also loved. So we just kind of decided, we're pretty good collaborators. Maybe we should stick together and see this thing through. So even though Mike went to NYU out east and I stayed in Milwaukee, went to college there, I was constantly visiting him out in New York, and we were working together on stuff. So, and then Lake Michigan Monster honestly just came about from boredom, essentially. We were trying to sell our web series called LIPS, which is an acronym for League of Interplanetary Process Servers. We spent like a year in development trying to sell that, and I just kind of got bored of nothing happening and just being a pizza delivery driver. So I said, all right, you know what, I'm just going to attempt to make a feature film. And then Mike started editing it and doing the VFX for it, and that eventually became Lake Michigan Monster.
That's absolutely amazing. And what kind of films were you both into back then as well? Because you have a very unique style when it comes to your films, and it's a style that audiences seem to love, but it's a style that we don't see very often these days. What kind of films were shaping your interest in cinema back when you were at high school, and what films have you loved over the years as well?
I would say Evil Dead 2, Hellboy 2, The Burbs, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Jackie Chan, Guy Madden, and we love The Simpsons. Yep. End of list.
So, Ryland, tell us about this journey with Hundreds of Beavers. Like you said, this was a film that you were able to put together after the success of Lake Michigan Monster. Where did the original idea come from for this film, and how did it develop from there?
The idea was born, as all good ideas are born, in a bar, and Mike and I just started talking about this idea of shooting a movie in the wintertime in this grainy black and white style we call the grain train, and doing a winter movie with snowball fights and sledding, and most importantly, mascots, because everyone likes mascots falling down in the snow. It doesn't matter what your race, creed, or nation may be. People around the world universally agree that it's funny when mascots fall down. So we thought we could incorporate that into some sort of snow stick comedy, which is a subgenre of slapstick, and I think we're only the fourth snow stick movie in history. But yeah, it started as this little kernel of an idea to like make a small movie almost on the same level as Lake Michigan Monster, but do it with this wintry idea, but it expanded and got bigger and bigger and more grand. And then once the Milwaukee-based ad agency SRH came on board to help produce and find some more money, then it just started to really take off. So yeah, I don't know. It started in a bar, drinking, and the drinking never stopped for 4 years to make the movie itself, as evidenced by the final product. But yeah, that's pretty much the origin story.
Now, we can certainly relate here in Australia to finding mascots falling over for people laughing, because we don't so much have mascots for our sport, but once a year here on Christmas Eve, we have a huge concert called Carols by Candlelight that's broadcast right around Australia. It has millions of people watching. There are tens of thousands of people in the audience, and a few years ago, it rained on the night, and the stage is undercover where they film it, but the rain somehow got onto the stage, and for the entire night we had cartoon people dressed as cartoon characters and elves and such slipping over all night, and it ended up becoming one of those must-see television events where everybody was Googling going back to watch it because so many of these large creatures slipped over. Do you think that kind of humor goes right back to like the early silent theater, and that's why we kind of find those things funny?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's. I'll have to look up this video. That sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it does go back to early Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. Where they would, back in the silent era, they used to just make entire films with no talking, because they're not called talkies, they're called movies.
Yep.
So you just tell your whole story through movement. But I think that's, yeah, I don't know, it's like inherently funny slapstick to just see someone fall down and get hurt, or have some sort of physical gag that makes something harder, like an everyday challenge harder. And again, that was expanded upon then too later on. Obviously, they had talking, but a lot of the Hong Kong stuff with Jackie Chan were great, because he took a lot of inspiration from the silent film guys. So even though he was doing a lot of martial arts and stuff, he was incorporating slapstick as well all the time, and doing funny physical gags and whatnot. But yeah, I just think it harkens back to theater, and then into early silent films, and I think everyone, again, around the world can relate to someone trying to achieve a simple task and not being able to, and having to overcome funny obstacles. That's just inherently funny, I think, for human nature. So, and it's just one of those things that films haven't been doing very much at all lately. So we challenged ourselves to try to make a dialogue-free movie, which we thought would kind of separate us, and then on top of that, incorporate all of these running gags and physical humor, which again we don't see a lot of modern films doing that, and we thought that would also kind of separate us and set us apart from what a lot of other people are doing.
Definitely. I was wondering if you could tell us from a screenwriting point of view how that changed things for you, because like you said, it's very different to what we see. A lot of comedy that we see these days will be filled with political jokes or jokes about sex and things like that, whereas you went with pretty much a dialogue-free film and relying on kind of old-school comedy. Tell us a little bit about that screenwriting process.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge because Mike and I, we do like writing very talky movies. So it was a big challenge to just totally turn that off in our brain and just say we have to show this whole story through movement and not have the characters talk at all, which was a big challenge. We would have moments where like, can we just have a little line here to explain this, or can we just have a little something? It's like, no, we have to find a way to just not have characters talk. So that was a big challenge. And, as far as screenwriting is concerned, there was actually no screenplay for the film itself. We wrote a treatment on as to, what happens in the movie, kind of a beat for beat treatment, but there's no actual screenplay. It was just a bunch of drawings. And so Mike would draw exactly what, shot for shot kind of what happens in the movie, and then we would lay them out on a table, and we'd kind of rearrange the index cards on the table to have all the runners connect. Because if anyone sees the movie, they know there's lots of callbacks and runners that happen, and so we just had to be constantly rearranging on this table for months to make sure all of these things connected and there was no loose ends. And on top of that, it was just like, we had to come up with like 1,000 gags, and then go with the best, 50 or 75 or whatever, and then being able to connect those to the runners and connect those to fur trapping and make it funny too, and make it viably possible to shoot or do in After Effects. So it was a very tricky balancing act, and again, it took many months and lots of trial and error. But we worked pretty hard on it, and I don't know, I think we did okay.
Yeah, definitely. You did amazingly well. Ryland, we are running out of time very quickly, but I had two quick questions. First of all, you're also an actor in this film. Tell us a little bit about what that was like for you and what kind of challenges did you face as a performer with the style of this film?
Well, I don't know. It was pretty physically demanding just because I wear a big, bulky costume that's completely unwieldy. And plus you're in the snow, which is very deep, and it can, and it was very, very frigid some days. So, and then, yeah, just, I was doing a lot of stunts and action and stuff like that. So it was a physically demanding role, but it was a lot of fun. I don't know, after doing a role like that where you're doing all these fun action scenes and stunts and falls, and you get to wear a giant raccoon hat. It is kind of like, I don't know. It's tough to replicate a role that's quite as fun. I mean, yes, it was physically demanding, but it was a lot of fun at the end of the day. And thankfully, I mean, there's no dialogue in the movie, so I didn't have to learn any lines, so that was good. But also, Mike, he kind of treated me as a puppet a little bit, where he'd sort of puppet me around the shot or whatever a little bit, because there's so many precision gags that are so laser guided that I would have to be in the right position at the right time with the right sort of timing and reactions and stuff like that. So it was like me being a part actor and part puppet, I guess.
Definitely. Now, to finish off, what would you like to say to people who are about to sit down and watch Hundreds of Beavers for the first time, whether it be on a streaming platform or whether it be in the cinema? What would you like to say to them?
Well, I would say if you can, I would definitely watch it in a theater full of people. I think that's definitely the way to see it on the big screen, with the amazing sound design done by Bob Barado, and the score with Chris Ryan. Yeah, the theater full of people is definitely the way to go if you can. But if you are streaming it, I would say, gather up a group of your drunken friends and family, and get a 12-pack or 24-pack of beer and kind of shut off your minds and crank up the volume and just have a good time. Like you said, it's not any sort of political message here, or we're just trying to entertain folks, and so just be prepared for a fun time, and I think you'll enjoy what's on the screen for you.